Qualys is introducing a new prescription for security, and it's free. Global IT asset discovery and inventory. Activate it today at securityweekly.com/Qualys so you can achieve 100% near real-time visibility across your hybrid environments. Let the team at Black Hills Information Security test your defenses. With over 10 years of experience in penetration testing, red teaming, and threat hunting, the testers at Black Hills will help you find the holes in your security before the bad guys do. The team at Black Hills cares about educating and sharing their knowledge by creating countless blogs, open source tools, and webcasts for you to learn more about the tradecraft of pen testing and red teaming. Visit securityweekly.com/BHIS to join their mailing list and view the latest blogs and webcasts from Black Hills Information Security. The biggest problem in security that remains unsolved is unprotected attack paths that allow threats to compromise vulnerable targets in the cloud and data center. But traditional microsegmentation is too complex and time-consuming. There's a better approach. Edgewise Zero Trust Auto Segmentation. Edgewise is impossibly simple microsegmentation, delivering results immediately with a security outcome that's provable and management that's zero touch. Driven by machine learning, Edgewise automatically builds policies that protect any application in any cloud without any changes to your network. They provide measurable improvement by quantifying attack path risk reduction and verifying software identity before it communicates to stop application compromises and data breaches. To see how to eliminate your network attack surface, visit securityweekly.com/Edgewise.
Welcome to Security Weekly. I'm your host, Matt Alderman. We are at DEF CON 27. We're recording live at the Social Engineer Village. Joining me for this interview is a really good friend of the show, Aaran Leyland. Aaran, welcome.
Thank you.
I was trying my Welsh accent. I'm never good.
I don't know. I can never tell whether
I don't know.
Welsh, Scottish, Irish. I don't know. They all sound the same.
So what we're going to talk about is your transition from the military.
Yeah.
Into the corporate side of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And you had this really interesting stop like about a year ago, right in the middle at Security Weekly.
Yeah, I did.
So let's start on the military side. Kind of give your history and kind of
sure.
what you were doing there.
I did 23 years in the Royal Air Force, so I know some people, maybe the Marines and that, will be like, that's not quite military, but we do jest. But yeah, so 23 years in sort of information security, sort of communications background, stuff like that. Finishing up my career in cyber in the military. That was really cool. I did sort of like 5 tours of Afghan, 2 tours of Iraq. So I sort of spent most of the best part of my life sort of in sandy places.
Yeah, warm, hot, sandy places.
Yeah.
Kind of like Vegas every once in a while.
Yeah, completely like Vegas without the shirt.
So let me ask a question. After 23 years, why stop then? Or was there nothing left for you to do in the military?
So I was really lucky. I managed to juggle a couple of sort of careers in the military, so I got to do a lot of variety. But I think maybe 5 years ago I started thinking that the military had transitioned from the military that I joined, and whether that was good or bad, it just wasn't familiar enough to me anymore. And I enjoyed the fact that I could go out and do lots of different things, but sort of the old school familiarity was gone. So I started preparing to get out then, but after 22 years you get an immediate pension, so that means sort of a reasonable amount of constant money, which gives you opportunities maybe
to do something else.
To do something else, yeah. So,
but some people would stay in longer, could potentially stay in longer, right?
It's like a friend of mine's just getting out now after 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so from he was about 16, 17, right through to 40 years, so that's a long time.
Yeah. Now, you came out of some interesting areas at some interesting times. So transitioning now from your military side, getting ready to go corporate, you made some interesting steps along the way. Give us kind of that thought process of what you were thinking when you're finishing up your tour, you're getting done. Why did you do what you did? What was the thought process behind some of that?
Yeah, so I think I was always interested in computers when I was a child, and when I went into the military, I never wanted to be a soldier running around the field with a gun so much, but I enjoyed.
Well, that's why you're in the Royal Air Force.
Yeah. But it's like sort of, so I was always involved in tech. No, it's like my father got me a ZX Spectrum when I was quite young, and did a little bit of minor coding on that and stuff. So the interest was always there. And then when I bought my first computer with my first own paycheck, and there was things like the Cult of the Dead Cow and Back Orifice and stuff like that, that was really interesting stuff. And just the fact that the opportunities in information security and cyber are just, they're endless. No, it's like, I think I was telling the guys the other day, it's like, it's still like in cyber, we're in the Wild West. No, it's like, so yes, we're heading for automation maybe, and sort of level 1 and 2 analysts.
Yeah, but we're still making it up a lot.
But yeah, but
along the way.
No, you look at DNS security and sort of even BGP. It's like, what is it they call it? The two napkin protocol or something like that.
Yeah,
it was wrote on napkins.
Napkin,
But yeah, so I think because I was in IT and it was like a natural progression, but I guess cyber's the sexier side of IT, right?
Well, I think it is. I started in '96 when it wasn't sexy.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we were doing a lot of the basic stuff around antivirus and firewalls and building out DMZs, which, you can debate now whether we build them or not, and then transition into some other areas. A number of us started way back early in the day, and I think the security side is way more exciting than IT and plugging in boxes.
Yeah,
and networking and
it's like no harm to sysadmins, but it's like I couldn't be a sysadmin. I like the idea of the firefighting and them and us and the cat and mouse game of always trying to get ahead of each other.
And probably part of your military training has a part of that in you anyways, right?
So when we talk about military transition, I think that's a very good segue into that. The fact that your military training teaches you to get stuff done and get it done. So if it's time critical, get it done in the best way possible with the best information you've got.
Yep.
But if it's not time critical, no, you can put more thought and more planning and you can put more people to it. So yeah, I think being in the military, you naturally have transferable skills. And that's something I want to talk about today is how people can maybe come out of the military and maybe not follow my lead, but certainly follow my lead a little, but learn by my mistakes and learn how I went about actually moving to the city of London and sort of getting...
Yeah, because you got up and moved.
Yeah.
You came to the States for a little while. So let's start with so you're getting finished. You weren't done yet when you came to Security Weekly.
I was still in the military.
Yeah, you were still in the military. And why Security Weekly? I've heard parts of the story, right? Paul's told me parts of the story. It was before I was officially over 100% of the time, but we were here together last year.
So I guess I'd listen to the podcasts, and actually I'd listen to them a lot more than I'd watch them, and I didn't realize how much I was missing out of actually.
Yeah, 80% of people listen, only 20% watch. But the video.
But I say, definitely if you get a chance, definitely watch Paul's Security Weekly, and yeah, it's really exciting. But I guess, so I listened to the podcasts. I used to listen to them on my commute to work and stuff like that. As you know, cyber, it's ever-changing, and you have to keep up with it daily. It's not like, sometimes I say, it's like I wish I'd have become a carpenter because I don't know how often the dovetail joint changes, but I'd be so bored. It's like, and I'm not very good with my hands either, so the best left to the carpenters. But it's like, so I was listening to the shows, and when you leave the military, you get approximately 6-8 weeks to sort of go out and do something, do some courses, approach some businesses, look for jobs. So I was like, I might as well go big. No, it's like, and I always say shy kids get no sweets. So it's like, you just go big. So I just wrote to Paul, and I wrote to another podcast studio as well, and I got a reply to them, but they didn't seem to have the personality of this podcast network. So I was like, please, Security Weekly, write back to me, because this one, although good, it's lacking a bit of the personality edge that comes with Security Weekly. But so I wrote to Paul. I didn't get a reply for 2 weeks, and I was like,
that's typical. Anybody who's ever emailed Paul.
It's like, I think he's 2 months behind on his emails for the last one.
He's about 8 months behind now that I'm on board. He ignores everything.
That's so good. But it's like Sam emailed me, and she was like, hi Aaron, Paul wants to give you a call. I'm sorry I haven't been in touch. We've been in Florida, and there's been a hurricane, and
that was InfoSec World.
Yeah. So she's really apologetic, and I'm just happy to get a sort of an email back. And then Paul called and I totally fanboyed him, and he tells the story about now how he reckons I social engineered him.
Yep.
but it was true.
You praised him.
Yeah,
and all this
I
stuff.
was like, you're amazing, dude.
And Paul's like, okay, so this guy's coming to work for us. He's ex-military. He goes, I'm not sure what to expect.
Yeah. And I think Paul always tells the story, maybe we should have done some background checks on you or something.
Right,
He's
exactly.
like, you could have been a serial killer, but we're glad it worked out.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's like, because the guys, literally, when I come over, I remember the day I walked into the studio, it's like Sam was sat here and Wyatt was sat there, and Mark and Johnny were up in the corner doing some production, and Joe was sat in the corner doing his stuff, and then Paul just walked out smoking a big stogie and carrying a glass, and he's just like, hey, Aaron. And I'm just like, hi. But yeah, so it's like I come out for about 6 weeks, and you guys nicely brought me to Black Hat
you were
and
Black Hat
DEF
and DEF CON last year with us.
Yeah, we started in B-sides, I guess, as well, and I stayed with the team in the Tuscany, and it's like got to work with all the guys and stuff like that, and everybody just treated me really quickly like part of the family. It's like Sam invited me around to her house for her birthday, and I go out with the guys all the time, and that.
Yeah.
It was just sort of it felt homely really quick.
Yeah, and it probably helped you a little bit in that transition period, right? Is you're coming out of the military in a much more disciplined environment.
Yeah.
We were very undisciplined in our environment.
I think it's much more disciplined this year than last year. I think
it's a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah.
We probably all know why that is, but no comment. But you kind of like came out of the frying pan right into the fire, a completely different environment.
Yeah,
right?
So it's like from being in quite a strict, rigid environment for obvious reasons, and then coming to an environment of creativity, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the way I like to think of it now. And if people have creative minds and they're talking to people and they're trying to extract stuff from people and get the best out of people, no, they're not going to be as rigid to rules as sort of you would be in the military. So yeah, there's a tiny bit of chaos, but it's unbelievably professional at the same time. But I think people just thrive on the energy of it's like as I guess just before you come to Black Hat and DEF CON, probably the biggest logistical move of your year, and it gets a bit crazy right up to the end, but but everything just works. It's just
look, we will do 50 interviews in 4 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy. Okay, crazy. From a production standpoint, I'm holding off on the cough to make sure the guys don't have to do too much editing. But it's a lot of pressure, right? So you finished DEF CON Black Hat with us last year. Then you transition. You go to the corporate world.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. So I joined Deloitte in their cyber practice in risk advisory. And that was really exciting because I knew I had the job before I came to Vegas. So I didn't have to worry about anything. I think I did prepare really well, but I also feel really lucky as well at the same time, because I guess the more you put yourself out there, the more luck you're going to have, right? The more tickets you have for the lottery, the more chance you have of winning.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. But yeah, it's like, so Deloitte had this really good program going. It's sort of the military transition and talent program, and Chris Recchia is the lead partner for it. And I went for other jobs at other sort of public or other services type area. And I had an offer from another company, but they invested like a 90-minute interview on me, where Deloitte invested a full 2-day program where I come in, and you even had like some training while you were on it and stuff like that. And you had your sort of peer-to-peer type interview and then a partner interview, actually leading to an offer at the end of the second day, which is really exciting. So I think Deloitte's really big into military transition, and I believe we have about 150 ex-military staff sort of working around cyber.
Now, is part of the process with their interview process really to kind of figure out where you best fit based on your skill set?
Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting point, because I was doing a master's in sort of cybersecurity, and I'd done sort of a malware analysis module. And so when they were spending the 2 days figuring where you worked in the practice, they were like, Aaran, you should come and work in cyber incident response and know you can be a manager and manage cyber incident response teams. And I was like, I'm not sure that's what I was thinking of doing. And they were like, well, we've talked to you for 2 days. And it's like,
we think that's what you should do.
Yeah, and I was like, so tell me about it. So they managed to get the director in to talk to me. Like, so he came in and we talked and we got on really well. And he just turned around to me and he says, Aaran, this is where we think you should be. This is what we think you would enjoy. If you don't like it, we will put you somewhere else. Yeah. And I was like, oh, really? Where's the cameras? It's like, are you kidding me? But yeah, so that was really exciting. So that's where I lie now in cyber incident response and sort of general consultancy, cyber transformation, cyber wargaming and stuff like that. So
that's great.
So that's really interesting.
And then you got them to flip the bill to bring you back out here so we could do this again.
Yeah. So it's like, obviously, Black Hat and DEF CON's really good because even if it's just for the networking side of it, for building up your personal network, it's really good for that. So I guess just the kicker is there's some really good talks and there's some good opportunities out here.
That's great. If you were to provide some guidance to others in the military that are getting ready to transition to the commercial side, what would some of those tips be? Okay,
so I think most importantly, you can't prepare early enough. So I was preparing 5 years before I left.
Wow.
And I think I sort of seen as my second career because I could spend as many days working in cyber as I spent in the Air Force. So you got to try and do something you enjoy, especially after spending so long in one career.
Right.
You know, you want to try and it's like the passion inside you ignites sort of your passion for your job and what you want to do. And I think you benefit greater for that. So as I said, I chose something that I was really interested in. Right. So that helped. Try and get as much training as you can, and opportunities for training and different types of training. But also, we were having a chat about it earlier, about military communities are quite tight, and the cyber community is really tight as well. So when you meet ex-military people in cyber, them two communities sort of symbiotically, they mash together, but like in a really tight bond, and these people are going to help you. It's like, cyber is really friendly. It's like, so people are like, how do you feel just leaving the family of the Air Force and coming to Deloitte? I'm like, the cyber practice is about 360 people, but everybody knows everybody and everybody's friendly and everybody helps each other. So get out there, speak to military people, join networks, join communities. And
another intern for a summer, right?
Yeah. They won't be as good, but yeah, you could get another. But yeah, I think definitely, and use the resources. There's lots of military resources. Even at Deloitte, they have insight days. So they bring the military in and they get them to bring like their CVs with them. And then they start talking to them about the transferable knowledge skills. Yep. So yeah, so it's like you just got to give it a go and you just got to plan and maybe have a little bit of luck as well. But
pick up the phone or the Twitter and give you a buzz, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
But it's like, I was going to say that it's like one person that really helped me is sort of one of the new partners in the public sector of cyber, Brian Hercombe. It's like, because when I was going through the 2-day sort of recruitment process, it's like it just pulled me aside and just have a chat and just sort of offer some words of advice and stuff like that. And since then, I've got to work for him quite a bit. And it's like, I now see why I joined the organization because of ex-military people like that I'm sure they'd help anybody in cyber as much, but it felt nurturing.
He spent the time to talk to you and answer questions and give you guidance, which you felt more confident in coming to an organization like that, where you thought you would fit in, right, and get that support you need.
Because there is like a military community, that will support each other and stuff. And I know as well, I think talking about, I guess people are scared of people coming out of the military because they haven't been in corporate life. But Deloitte actually published a work report about the military and about how their skills are actually in business. And it talks about how when they actually do join the corporate side, that normally their promotion prospects sort of leap ahead of their peers.
Because you're getting leadership skills in the military, which I think transfers really, really well to the skill set you're going to need to, continue to grow up through a commercial organization as well.
Yeah, so I think I'd ask companies to maybe think more about actually employing military people, and maybe even get a hold of a copy of the Deloitte report. I think they're actually going through their third iteration of it now, and that'll give you the facts and fingers of actually how good it would be. I think some people worry about the mental health of the military when they come out as well, and how maybe they're not going to get on with their civilian counterparts.
Right.
But I'm testament to the fact that through the way I went in, it was really, really easy. And a lot of these companies offer additional support for the military, but the military is getting better now. On your exit interview, they offer you sort of mental health sort of checks and sort of
just to help with that transition.
Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about people when they get to your civilian company, because the military's already gone through all their checks and balances and sort of made sure that we can be set free.
Yeah, and if they build a culture where it makes it really easy for you to come in and be embraced and work in that environment, that just helps the transition as well.
Yeah, and I think that really helped my transition, was the family sort of feeling, and just the general cyber community being really, really helpful to each other.
That's great. Thanks for sharing your story, Aaran.
Thanks, Matt.
Always a pleasure.
It's really good.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Welcome to Security Weekly. I am your host, Matt Alderman. We're recording live at DEF CON 27. We're in the Blue Team Village. And joining me for this interview is O'Shea Bowens. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you're going to present here in a little bit, I think. You think you are.
What time is it? I think I go on at 4.
So you got a little while.
Yeah, I think I have like 2 hours, or maybe 2.5, 3 hours or something like that.
Got it. So what are you going to talk about?
There's myself and a woman named Sarah Gibson from Veracode. So we're going to speak about encompassing more different elements for blue teaming. So not just monitoring and detection, but she focuses on application security. So how do you work with application security when you're going through your blue teaming engagements and incorporate what they have from a vulnerability perspective, from their static and dynamic code analysis side, and put that into the blue teaming side to get a bit more proactive versus standing on the other side and being reactive.
Yeah, and so you wanted to talk a little bit about this whole kind of more focus on blue teaming a little bit, right? I mean, is that part of why you're doing this talk, is to kind of educate other people on, these are the other things you need to think about in a blue team exercise? Yeah,
because one of the things I've noticed throughout my career, at one point there was this shift where everyone, it still kind of happens, but everyone wanted to be pen testers.
I know.
And I just turned 36, but I just remember always running in individuals and working on different teams in the SOC, and they're like, well, I want to go into pen testing. And a majority of them typically came back to the defensive side, because what I feel is they realize how important defense is. Defense is kind of the bread and butter for most organizations. If you're an independent pen tester or a researcher, it's great for you, but most organizations are focused on protecting their assets, right? And in my mind, I've always taken this defensive approach of getting better and upskilling yourself and actually analyze it, and then getting to the point where you can understand the attacks. That makes you so much stronger and so much more valuable from a career standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I started my career back in '96 on the consulting side, kind of a red teamer, not as hardcore as what the red teams do today. I mean, these were early days, right? So pen testing back then wasn't as I think sexy or exciting as it is now. And then I shifted to the vendor side and became, I'm more on the blue team side as well for over the last number of years, building solutions to try to help defend the network, right? And I think one of the interesting areas is when I look at the market, I'm like, all right, what matters in 10 years from a security standpoint? Right? If I'm going to, and we're going to talk cloud a little bit, I abstract away the network, I abstract away the endpoint as I move to cloud. App matters, right?
Totally matters.
Identity and user matter.
Correct.
And data matters.
Yep.
But I don't know that we bring all those aspects sometimes into our blue team activities. So I think is an interesting topic to talk about, because that's where I see security shifting. And as blue teamers, right? I think we need to really understand the impact of app, user, and data security, because those things are going to become really important.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy important to communicate with. I know where I suck. I'm not a red teamer, right? But I have buddies that's all they do is pen test.
Yeah.
So understanding what their focus is and understanding what they're looking at helps me become better. So it's one of these weird things where you have people also that even are like in blue team, they are in SOCs, like they don't really communicate with like a pen tester, right? So think about like a good example, like you're working for an organization, they have pen testers come in. It's the blue team or is the SOC a part of that engagement, right? Like, so what
they may or may not be.
Well, I found this before. Like they may tell you, hey, look out for these IPs because it's whatever this consulting company is or these pen testers, it's going to be them, so no red alarms. But I remember asking questions like, well, when do we get their data? Like, how do we create countermeasures or detection or monitoring around that? And it was like seldom that was the conversation that was had. Like we like once it got to the point I was leading teams in management and I get demanded, I was like, no, we're going to sit down with the guys that ran the pen test. I want to walk through the findings and I want to have our guys actually carve out indicators out of that. Like that's what I want. We don't need you coming back in 6 months and then finding the exact same thing, which is normally what happens because those type of conversations happen outside of typically the SOC side of it, right? So it was, and it's weird that that's split off, and it's not just the pen testing side; it's the AppSec side also. So they're under the same umbrella as security, but totally different departments. You're just not communicating there.
Yeah, and I get it. Sometimes you want to test your SOC to see if they can see these attacks coming in, and maybe they won't tip their hand and say, no, go through your normal exercise just to test the SOC, right? But you still want those results back and really figure out what they found in order to defend the network better, right?
Yeah, and I think that's also like a good way to justify training. Like one of the things that still drives me crazy is when you have, like everyone wants to learn more, right? So you have a team of individuals, especially like when you're a manager, you have to make these decisions. You have a team of individuals, and they're like, hey, I want to go to SANS, or I want to do GPAN, or whatever it may be. And they're all like super, and all SANS courses are great in my book. But it's like, are you really going to use that here? Like, like, so it's like really like, well, why don't we leverage what we have from a red team inside, and let's figure out where you actually stand from a knowledge perspective, and then we can make a decision on like where you're actually going to go. I think it's a cheap exercise too. If you take those red teaming results and you actually pump that back into the SOC and actually challenge your defenders and your girls and guys in the on the defensive side to identify and as like more of a creative challenge, like, okay, we'll script out some signatures for us. Let's run this in a lab and let's see if those signatures actually work. You're almost like upskilling them for free because you've already paid for the red teaming.
You already paid for the event, right?
And it's crazy when you ask people this. They're like, oh, no, I don't. Like, no one really does that.
Nobody saw the results?
Well, I think what happens is also like a lot of bigger companies, you go those Fortune 500, it's like the risk department typically sits with those results. So they kind of work it out, then they start speaking with the sysadmins around vulnerabilities or application around vulnerabilities and remediation. And then the SOC's kind of just out on the outskirts. But I think when you begin to incorporate those different areas of InfoSec, you can almost create this free tier to training for your guys and girls. Like I've had to create training for my guys and girls before, and I rely on that. And then I know like if they're performing well with the stuff I've created, all right, cool, you can go off to
then you can go do a more advanced course.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that. And I think that's a better approach than versus like, okay, you want to go for whatever, and here's whatever thousands of dollars, and they come back and you're like, dude, what'd you learn? And like, I saw some really cool stuff. I saw some scripts. Like, all right, can we use that here? Like, oh, I don't know. Let me try. I'm like, you have like 5 books.
Yeah, right.
How do you not know what we can maybe use here? That was the whole purpose of like sending you, and it's a weird space. I think we're getting better with it. I think as more organizations are starting to realize, okay, we can't keep paying to send people out. How do we make this a smaller?
I mean, Paul and I have talked about this on a couple different shows. We had a webcast with ISC Squared a few weeks back. Look, if you're going to go out for training, then you should come back and present what you learned to the rest of the team. We think that's a great idea, right? Because, look, you're spending the money. Those classes aren't cheap. You're sending somebody out there, paying for the class, paying for them to go out. If they go out, they should bring some knowledge back to the rest of your team.
I agree.
Right? Now I can come back, give a presentation, a little lunch and learn with the rest of the team. Hey, here's what I learned. Maybe this is how we apply it here. Then you get some cross-training. That would work really, really well if people would kind of do that. But, yeah, you're right. Sending somebody and then not knowing whether
it's like they get the cert and they bail on you.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good way to to strengthen your team, too.
Yes.
Like identifying where that one person that did go off of that, let's say it's one of the 560s or whatever, they come back and they have that knowledge. And you have junior guys and girls or girls and guys inside. My wife's like, don't say girls and guys, just say people. So you're people, but you have those junior level people there, and it's like, hey, well, here's a little bit of knowledge I can pass down to you, right? And you're on the team, so we want you to stay. We're investing in you, and then that person over like the next 2 years, their knowledge base grows up, and they're like, well, now I want to go up to whatever it may be.
Right?
Like
This
forensics.
event.
Yeah.
Right? Or Black Hat, the past 2 days, or coming here to DEF CON. Again, if you bring that knowledge back to your team, then it's probably a little easier as an organization justify sending some folks because you're going to get some cross-training out of it.
Agreed.
And it helps everybody kind of learn, even though maybe it's not your turn to go to DEF CON this year, but it's somebody else's. But, you know.
Exactly.
We have to be here, but some of us just have to be here.
It's a spectacle. I think this is like the largest one I've been to so far.
It's crazy. I mean, the vendor area's over at Bally's. We're in Flamingo. I think there's stuff over in Paris too. I mean, it's just
Someone said there's like 700 talks, like about 700 different talks over like the whole period of time, from like Black Hat to DEF CON. And that's
crazy.
like 7 days, like 700.
Yeah.
That's a lot
That's
of
a
stuff
lot of
going on.
content.
Like it's crazy what we've got, how we gotten here. It's nuts.
Exactly. You wanted to talk. Welcome to Security Weekly. I'm your host, Matt Alderman. We are recording at DEF CON 27. We're at the Blue Team Village. Joining me for this interview is Tyler Robinson.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
So, are you allowed to talk about what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think so. We can
little
get into some things.
Because as a former red teamer, are you still red teaming? Are you blue teaming? Or are you doing both?
Honestly, still doing a lot of offense. That's where my focus is at. But I think we're at a stage inside of the whole security industry as a whole, bringing both blue and red together. And they call it purple teaming. It's obviously, an overused term. But really, we're at a point where the offense and defense have got to be a real blended mix, and we have to start collaborating and becoming one organization and one mission. Over whatever we've kind of separated each other, we kind of try and work together. But honestly, the people that are doing good red teaming now have a real deep embedded relationship with the blue team, and they really should be viewed as a blue teamer, because honestly, if blue team or if red team is winning, then your blue team is losing, and that means everybody's losing at that point.
Well, red team did win the extra hop challenge.
They did.
But
then blue team got something.
Yeah, but I told Paul, I said, of course the red team's going to win because you guys are going to hack the game, right?
It's not cheating if we do it.
It's not cheating if you get away with it, I guess. But it's a valid point, right? Is offense is typically ahead of defense in this space. But how do we get red and blue teams to work better together? Because I still see a gap in that actually happen. O'Shea and I were just talking about it previously, right? Is how do you get those red team pen test results to the blue team, the SOC, to learn from, to better defend? Something's got to happen to make that a little easier, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is there's really a twofold approach to this. First is really getting the red teamers and the offensive people to change both their mindset and their attitude. Really, as a community and as the red team, they've always been viewed as kind of the jocks or the superstars. But really, that's just because at some point they probably were a blue team, and getting there takes a lot of work, right? However, that attitude and that mentality has caused a split where they're not helping the blue team as much because they have to have their elite skills. They want to make sure they're getting in and breaking everything. But I really think it is the approach of shifting that mindset from the offensive side and realizing that we all are actually blue at the end of the day. We don't want attackers to get in. That's why we do what we do.
Right.
And so really making sure that our mindset is 100% feeding back into the blue team, providing good communications and full disclosures and full transparency, really working with the purple team, blending those two together and really being a part of one mission and one whole community at that point. Like cybersecurity should not have the offense and defense split. We shouldn't be doing those particular pieces. We're all in this game together, and we're really trying to go against some adversaries that they're really tough, and that means solving tough problems, and that is where if we don't work together and provide those insights and really help build up our blue team and work very closely with them with communication, with findings, with helping develop and do a lot of community outreach, bringing up, we're really short on blue teamers, we're really short on red teamers, so that means we're going to have to start working together to help some of these people come up the ranks.
So if I think about in a large organization where you have a red team and a blue team, it's probably a lot easier to get some of that coordination to happen.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you can do it through organizational structure or from the leadership to make sure that that happens. But a lot of organizations don't have their own dedicated red teams, right?
Yeah,
they're looking to the external consulting side, right?
Absolutely.
Your history and a lot of guys in here that have been doing red teaming outside. How I'm trying to think about, as pen testers and pen testing companies, how can you or how should you help your clients from a blue team perspective? Is there something you guys can do to help break down some of those barriers? Or is because you're an outsider, there's a layer of management and stuff in between that you really can't be effective doing that?
No, I think you can absolutely be effective. And again, that's one of the things that we really try and provide is bringing a lot of our threat intel, a lot of our attack simulation, and our purple team together, and taking that to the client and really becoming a trusted advisor or integrating ourselves with the client. So it's a relational thing, and it's not just here's a pen test, we super sneaky, you didn't see anything, here's our report, go fix some findings.
Yeah.
That's not worked for the last decade.
Right.
We've really got to establish some relationships with with companies and be able to sit there with their SOC, with their blue team, provide actual valuable recommendations and work with them. Like if the tool's not doing it and there's a bypass, you don't wait till next year to do the next pen test. You're there working with them. It's your client. You want to have that relationship, because if they look bad and they get a breach, I think that should be pushed up to the offensive. That's where the responsibility should come to. If your blue is losing, that means you didn't do your job as a red teamer.
Are you seeing more of that? Because I remember, look, I haven't done the red teaming side for a long, long time. I mean, I think the last time I probably attempted to do a penetration outside test was probably 2002, maybe 2003. Okay, so it's been a long, long time. Stuff has changed dramatically. So I am not a red teamer expert at all. But when I did those activities, I was sitting back down with the team, sharing the results and trying to build aspects of that, but maybe not in as best a strategic relationship at the time, right?
Yep.
They were still kind of one-off events back then.
Yep.
And
That's still the case.
Okay. And so I'm trying to think, are we seeing improvement in companies wanting to build relationships with their red teams and really making them an integral part as a strategic partner? Or are we still just seeing these as kind of one-offs? Yeah, you might get a little bit of time, but then you're off to the next one, and they're looking at the next red team exercise with a different vendor because they want a different perspective.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing a big shift with good companies doing good pen tests and doing good threat emulation. It takes a long time to build that rapport and get the political clout and provide the impact that maybe a security team is needing to take to the executive level and provide the the funding for either people or tooling. But I think that has shifted a little bit. But I believe that gap has separated, right? I think at one point we were at a place where that was kind of the more or less. Real good pen test companies are doing it right, and they're working and establishing those relationships and doing long-term engagements, providing really, really valuable recommendations. And then the ones that were kind of mediocre, I think that is split, and you can see the differentiation between the two much more clearly now. And the education with the Blue Team Village here is educating them as far as the attacker's tool sets, as far as what resources are out there to help. And I think this particular thing, having a lot of defense integrated into a hacker conference, you have to admit, like, there has to be some improvement happening. I think the big part that's not happening is the executive level stuff. We really need to get that education passed down.
Up a couple layers. Because if you look in here, I mean, this room is getting full because we're getting ready to start another speaker, but it's full, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people in this
wouldn't
Blue
be a
Team
popular
village,
village prior.
And so now what you have is practitioners sitting here at the Blue Team, but then I think that next challenge is how do we educate their leadership to build a better relationship with you and the other pen testing firms and make it all come together.
And I think that's one of the big differentiators too between good pen test companies and like the things that we try and impart to our clients is we spend a great deal of time trying to educate the executive board and make a real personal connection with them and take the time to, we're not speaking down to them. This isn't their field. They're good at what they do. We're good at what we do. It's our responsibility as Red Team to be able to articulate that properly at that executive level and speak their language, show them the business risks, show them why the return on investment is going to, make a difference. Those those executive level briefings and really taking the additional steps and efforts to write a good executive summary or report, and then go and educate them and spend some time with them. They're very busy people, but they appreciate your third-party insight. That's what they pay for.
And I think that's a challenge because I think it's hard enough for the security guys to understand the language of business, okay, within the organization they are, right? As red teamers, right, as pen testers, you guys have to also do that because you want your results to be interpreted correctly so decisions can be made to improve. But that's not easy because you guys are also on the outside a little bit. So thinking about business impact and potential business risk requires you guys maybe to do a little more deep diving on the organization and what's important, what's not important, and what's critical so that you can actually make the right recommendations. And that requires that two-way dialogue if you're going to do it right.
Absolutely. And I think that's, so, while we have to hone our skills, almost daily to keep up in the offensive side of this, I think the bigger return on investment and where a lot of the really good red teamers that you'll see in the industry, the ones making big impact and big names for themselves, those are the people that have taken the extra initiative to learn business, to learn how to, to mingle with the executives in the C-level, really understand the business of their clients and make a threat profile for that from a business standpoint. Putting that extra time into being able to articulate that at that level is just as valuable as honing your skill.
Right, is the actual pen test itself.
Absolutely.
Because you can have the best pen tester in the world, and there's lots of them, but if you can't articulate what you did and the results and the potential impact to the organization, how are they going to make any changes to improve their defenses on the blue team side, right?
And then that doesn't look very good for you. Again, like if your clients are getting breached, like obviously there are political games that have to be played, but again, I think that's the offense's job to circumvent and be able to navigate those particular political things and really provide some education around what are the reasons behind this from a business standpoint. Otherwise, you're not going to have money, you're not going to have the FTEs you need. There's going to be an uphill battle. You really have to get top-down support, and sometimes that has to happen in different ways in different organizations because they just don't get it yet. But your ability to articulate that creatively and to really have your pitch and your understanding of business need and how to pitch that properly becomes much more critical than any of the engagements. I think we'd make way more change if we'd spend a little bit more time looking at each of the businesses and really taking a minute personally and
crafting the results to the actual business.
Absolutely. No candid results. Really crafting that and honestly caring about the work you're doing and the company you're doing it for. It's not just a pen test, not just a job or a paycheck. Like that's someone else's paycheck. That's someone's retirement. That's a utility. That's a critical piece of infrastructure. There's loss of life there. So really caring personally, and then as a company, making sure you care about your clients and you go the extra mile. And regardless of whatever the contracts, the money, you're doing it for a reason, the mission.
Right. Red teamers work with your clients better, improve their defenses, and bridge that gap between the red team and the blue team.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Tyler, thank you.
Absolutely, man. It was good seeing you again.
Yeah, good seeing you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.